Lizzie Borden, born on July 19, 1860, stood trial for the murders of her stepmother Abigail Borden and father Andrew Borden. She was found guilty of both murders. She was found not guilty of the killings, but nobody else was charged with the crimes. Thus her name is forever linked to them. It was on August 4, 1892, in Fall River, Massachusetts, when the killings took place. Her stepmother's body was located in the bedroom on the second floor, and her father's body was discovered on the couch in the living room. Lizzie asserted that she found her father's death approximately half an hour after he returned home from his morning errands. She said that she was home alone at the time. Bridget Sullivan, Lizzie's maid, discovered the deceased body of Lizzie's stepmother not long after that. Both victims had their skulls crushed to death by strikes to the head delivered with a hatchet. It was stated that Lizzie and her stepmother did not get along very well and that they had an argument years before the murder took place. It was common knowledge that Lizzie Borden and her sister, Emma Borden, argued with their father. They disagreed with his decision to distribute their family's assets and belongings. Also, her father was the one who was responsible for the death of her pigeons, which had been kept in the family barn. The entire family had been ailing right up until the moment the killings took place. Because Mr. Borden had a poor reputation in the community, Mrs. Borden was convinced that some sort of foul play was involved in his death. It turned out that Mrs. Borden was incorrect in her assumption that her family had been murdered and that they had instead contracted food sickness from eating infected pork. Once they passed away, their stomach contents were examined for signs of poisons, but the investigation resulted in no definitive findings. After that, on August 11, 1892, Lizzie was taken into custody. A grand jury decided to bring charges against her. However, the trial didn't get underway until June 1893. The police in Fall River came across the hatchet, but it appeared to have been thoroughly cleaned of any traces of evidence. The failure of the Fall River police to collect the newly revealed forensic fingerprint evidence appropriately was a setback for the prosecution. As a result, there was no possibility of obtaining any prints from the murder weapon. Even though no clothing with bloodstains was discovered as evidence, it was said that Lizzie tore a blue dress apart and burned it in the kitchen stove a few days after the murder because it was covered in baseboard paint. This was even though no clothing with bloodstains was discovered as evidence. Lizzie Borden was found not guilty of killing her stepmother and father because there was insufficient evidence to convict her, and a few testimonies against her were thrown out. Once the verdict was handed down in the case, Lizzie and her sister Emma stayed in the same house for several years. On the other hand, Lizzie and her sister gradually grew distant, and in the end, went their separate ways. She was no longer referred to as Lizzie Borden once she and her sister went their own ways. Instead, she was known as Lizbeth A. Borden. Lizzie struggled with her health throughout her final year of life. When she finally died away, the news of her passing was kept private, and only a select few people attended her burial. There are a lot of potential hypotheses that can help us figure out whether or not Lizzie was responsible for the killings. The stories range from Lizzie having seizures caused by a food condition to the maid being the one who committed the murders. Following the excision of her gallbladder, Borden struggled with illness in her final year of life. She passed away from pneumonia on June 1, 1927 in Fall River. The funeral details were not publicized, and few people were there. Emma moved to this area in 1923 for health reasons and to avoid fresh attention following publishing another book about the killings. 9 days later, she died at 76 from chronic nephritis in a Newmarket, New Hampshire, nursing facility. She had moved here in 1923. They were laid to rest next to one another in the family grave at Oak Grove Cemetery, even though none of the sisters had ever been married. Borden had a net worth of more than $250,000, comparable to $5,233,000 in today's dollars, at the time of her passing. She owned a home at the intersection of French Street and Belmont Street, and multiple office buildings, shares in various utilities, 2 automobiles, and an extensive collection of jewels. She bequeathed $30,000 to the Fall River Animal Rescue League and $500 to a trust for the care of her father's grave forever. At the time of the distribution of the estate in 1927, significant sums were awarded to her best friend and a cousin, who each received $6,000, $126,000 today. Numerous other friends and family members received an amount ranging from $1,000, $21,000 in 2021, to $5,000, $105,000 in 2021 for their estate share. This was all for today. I hope you liked the video. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Stay safe, and we'll be right back soon with another video. For For more information, subscribe and watch other videos from our channel.